Hello everyone, thank you for watching this video. Now in this part of the video today we are going to look at the I.L.M of quadratic graphs at the secondary 2 level. Before we actually begin, we are going to look at what is the I, the L and the M. So a quick run through of the summary. The details are being repeated in our part 1 of our video. Alright, so now what is the I, L, and the M? I stands for the intercepts, where we have the x-intercept and it cuts the x-axis, y is equal to 0. The y-intercepts, when it cuts the y-axis, the x is equal to 0. And we use them to find the x-intercepts and the y-intercept values. Next, we have the L, which is the line of symmetry. In general, for quadratic equation, we will have two x-intercepts from this part of the answer over here. And what we need to do, we need to find the number that's exactly in between the two x-intercepts. So what we do, we take them, add together, and divide by 2. Right, the equation of line of symmetry, the line of symmetry is always a vertical line for quadratic graphs in general. So a vertical line definitely must cut the x-axis. So you have an equation where x is equals to a number. Next, last part on M. Right, M will be either the maximum or the minimum point, or sometimes they'll ask you for the question on value. So what do we need to do? We take the line of symmetry, the x value, because the coordinate of the minimum point, the point itself or maximum point, lies on the line of symmetry. So these x values, these two over here, will be the same. Then how do we find the y value, the corresponding y value? We substitute the x value over here into our equation to calculate the value for our y. Now, if the question asks for maximum or minimum value of the whole curve, which is actually a y value, so you just only need the y value as the answer. So do read the details of the questions to answer them correctly. Now, in the next part of the graph, for today's video, we are going to look at graphs of the form negative x squared form. Without further ado, let's begin. For this part of the lesson, we are going to look at type 2 negative x squared graph. Now, the positive x squared graph version has already been recorded in the other part 1 of the video, so you may like to take a look at that. Okay, so for our negative x squared graph, which means we'll get a set phase, a negative x squared. Now, at the G2 level, usually the question will give you in this format where it's already factorized. Or if it's in the G3 level, then you probably need to do the factorization on your own, right? So if we were to given this equation over here, y equals to negative bracket x plus 3 and x minus 1. Okay, this is shown in this graph below. So you notice that this is actually a negative x squared, a set phase. So this negative sign here merely serves as the purpose to help us to tell us the shape of the graph. Let us continue with finding the answers. Right, the curve cuts the x-axis at the points A and B. So when it cuts the x-axis, what happens? What do we know? We know that y is equals to 0. This must be immediate. You must remember the concept, right? So you have two x-intercept, A and B. And it cuts the y-axis. When it cuts the y-axis, what will be the value for x? X will be equals to 0. So you cut the x-axis at the point C. Now, first part of the question says, find the coordinates of A and B. So when one find the coordinates of A and B, it cuts the y-axis. So what do we need to do? Let me move up a little bit. Okay, I'll sub the value y equals to 0 into my equation, which is y equals to negative x plus 3, x minus 1. So in this case, the answer here now will be 0 equals to negative x plus 3 and x minus 1. So what is the purpose of this negative sign? So if I were to shift everything over to this side and make it positive, I will technically speaking have x plus 3 and x minus 1 equals to 0. Okay, so I shift everything. So you notice that the negative sign in this case is only for the purpose of telling you the shape of the graph. It does not affect your x-intercepts, the solutions, as much. So in this case, if it's factorized, let's give us the answer very quickly. So this first answer will be x plus 3 to be equals to 0. Or my second answer will be x minus 1 to be equals to 0. So x plus 3 is equals to 0, then you shift this over to the other side. You get x equals to negative 3, right? Then the other one over here, this will be x equals to positive 1. Now let's try to match which one is negative 3 and which is 1. So we have A and B. So in this case, you can see A is the number negative 3, right? And B will be the number 1. Right, so we know our answers already. But are these the final answers? Now we read the question carefully. The question says find the coordinates. Coordinates, right? So when we want the coordinates of the question itself, we need to find what are the x and the y value. So we have A, the x coordinate to be 3, and B, the x coordinate to be 1. But what is our y coordinate? What's the y value? What's our y? Oh, remember, we have substituted y to be equals to 0. So we know this point is the y coordinates are all 0. So answers for A and B, negative 3, 0. B will be 1, 0. Okay? Now, next part of the question, let's look at part B. Find the coordinates of C. What's C? Right? C says it cuts the y-axis. When it cuts the y-axis, x is equals to 0. So we know very clearly we need to substitute x equals to 0. Into our equation. Y equals to negative x plus 3, x minus 1. Be careful of our negative sign. This is negative 0 plus 3 times 0 minus 1. So technically speaking, this is negative 3 times negative 1, which gives me a positive value 3. Okay, be careful of your negative sign and what it actually means. It's not 3 minus 1. Okay, so this is the value for y. So if I want the coordinates of C, I already know that the y value is, the y value is 3. So this is where y value is 3. What is our x value? Well, our x value is x is equals to 0 over here. So we know this is x equals to the number 0. So there we have our coordinates for C, 0, 3. Okay, now next part of the question, we are done with the I. We'll move on with the L. What is the L? L is the line of symmetry. Now, where's the line of symmetry? First, let me draw out a line of symmetry. I know that the line of symmetry is a vertical line. It cuts the x-axis and it's in the middle of the two x-intercepts. Right, it's in the middle of the two x-intercepts. So this is negative 3, this is 1. So we probably need a number in the middle over here. What is this number right in the middle? Okay, how can we get the answer? What we do, we take the two x-intercept, which is negative 3 and 1. We add them together, we divide by 2. This gives me negative 2 divided by 2, negative 1. Okay, so we know that this value is now negative 1. But this line over here is a vertical line. It cuts the x-axis. So our equation must have x equals to something over here. So let's get back to work on our answers. We will have the equation is a vertical line, so it must cut the x-axis. It will be x equals to something. We'll take the two x-intercept, which is negative 3 plus 1, divide by 2, and that gives me the answer x equals to negative 1. Alright, so now we have the L, line of symmetry. Next part, questions ask me to find the coordinates. Coordinates, now we say the coordinates of the minimum point, right? They're asking for a point. So what do I know about the coordinates of a minimum point? It must be something, right? Okay, what is so special? Because the minimum point lies on the line of symmetry. So what we know that this x value is -1. The coordinate for the minimum point will also have the x value to be -1. Then how do we find this y value? We substitute x equals to -1 into our equation. Y equals to -x plus 3, x minus 1. So now the value is 1, -1, -1. So please calculate your answers carefully. Right, this is all multiplication. If not, you use your calculator wisely. This will be -3 minus 1 is 2 times -2. And we get the answer to be 4. So this will be the coordinates. Oh, this question over here has an error. This should be a maximum point. Alright, so let me go back to our question to double check that again. So I know this is the y value is 4. Whether is it really a maximum point? We have the graph to go from here all the way up to come down. So this is really a maximum point. The x value is -1 and we found the y value to be the number 4. So in this case, our coordinates for the maximum point will be -1, 4. Okay, and next part of the question now asks me what happens if the question is asking you to find the maximum. Okay, my fault, right? I typed it wrongly. This is maximum. Okay, to find the maximum value of the curve. So when we want the maximum value, we are actually only looking at the y value over here. So this is the y value of my curve. The maximum value will be just the number 4. Okay, have you gotten the concepts? Now I shall move on to the next type of question for -x square graph, which is also a set phase, but this is most likely for the G3 level questions where you have in your equation a -x square and you're expected to factorize it on your own. So let's look at this question over here. The graph curve y equals to -x squared minus 3x plus 10 is shown below, and it cuts the x-axis at the point S and T and the y-axis at U. So what do we know immediately? We do know that cut the x-axis means y is equals to 0. And you cut the y-axis, so we'll have x is equals to 0. Now, first part of the question asked me to find the coordinates of S and T. So what we need to do, we need to substitute y equals to 0 into our equation. Y equals to -x squared minus 3x plus 10. So for this kind of question, y is equal to 0, -x squared minus 3x plus 10 is generally a little bit harder to factorize with negative sign. So usually I'll try to make the x squared positive. Either I factorize out the negative sign totally, or in this case, I can switch the positions of all the terms and it become x squared minus 3x plus x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals to 0. So we will have this part of our answer, the equation, and I'll need to do a simple factorization depending on what your teaches you. So you can have your box method, the cross method, the calculator method, so many different methods. So for me, I'll just do the cross method. Okay, 5 times 2 you give me 10, so I have 5x 2x. I want a positive 3x, so the larger number will be positive, the smaller number will be negative. So in this case, I have my two answers. The first one is x plus 5. The second one is x minus 2 to be equals to 0. Okay, so solving these two answers, the first answer x plus 5 is equals to 0, or my second answer x minus 2 is equals to 0. So therefore x is equals to negative 5, and this one will be x equals to positive 2. As you can see, which of the following are the x for negative 5 and 2? So letter S will be negative 5, the positive, T will be the positive number for 2. But again, the question wants the coordinates. So we'll need to write down the coordinates of our values, right? I will know it's not A, sorry, my typo error over here. This one should be S and T. Okay, S will be negative 5, the T will be 2. But what is our Y value? Remember, it cuts the x-axis, y is equals to the number 0. Okay, next one, find the coordinates of U. U cuts the y-axis. So it cuts the y-axis, x is equals to 0. So we need to substitute x is equals to 0 into our equation. So y equals to negative x squared minus 3x plus 10. You get negative 0 squared minus 3 times 0 plus 10. Anything times 0 is still 0. So y is equals to 10. Okay, and again we want the coordinates for x and y. So x is y is 10 we found. So what's the x value? X value is 0. Okay, over here. Then what else do we have? Last part of the question, to find the equation of the line of symmetry. Before we begin, line of symmetry, where is our line of symmetry? We need to draw. Okay, our line of symmetry over here is a vertical line exactly in between S and T. So this is going to be my line of symmetry over here. Okay, and I'll be able to get the answer for the line of symmetry, the number in between the two x-intercept. So I need a number over here. This number will be found by taking negative 5 plus 2 over 2, negative 3 divided by 2, negative 1.5. Alright, but negative 1.5 is just a number. I need an equation, so it cuts the x-axis, so the equation must be x equals to something. Right, so in this case, let me just work out the working. So I know x is equals to negative 1.5. So remember to make sure you have your x down there. Right, next part of the question, find the coordinates of the minimum points. In this case, sorry, not minimum, but maximum. I did not change my question properly. So this one also, the maximum value. Okay, so what we know down here, the x coordinate, right, for the line of symmetry will be the same as the x coordinate for our maximum point. Why? Because the line of symmetry will pass through the maximum point. So this x coordinate will be the number negative 1.5. So how do we find this y value over here? Okay, we sub x equals to negative 1.5 into our equation. Y equals to negative x squared minus 3x plus 10. Let me calculate this value first. Okay, I got my answer from my calculator to be 12.25. So this answer will be 12.25. So the questions wants the coordinates of the maximum point. So this will be the answer for our coordinates for the maximum point. Okay. Part C, last part, they want the maximum value of the curve. So they only want the value, which is actually our y value. So this one over here will be our maximum value, the answer, which is 12.25. Answer. Have you gotten the concepts? So with that, I'll end off this part of the video. We'll see you for the next lesson. Bye!